Let's begin our study of educational technology by examining basic terms, the scope and dimensions of educational technology, and the roles involved in the use of technology to facilitate and enhance education. What the heck is educational technology? You might think that depends on when and where you are in space and time. And you'd be somewhat correct. Consider the following. Educational technology refers to the use of tools, technologies, processes, procedures, resources, and strategies to improve learning experiences in a variety of settings, such as formal learning, informal learning, non-formal learning, lifelong learning, learning on demand, workplace learning, and just-in-time learning. As you can clearly see, what time period you live in, the resources you have, and the current research on best practices are all fluid and constantly changing. Look at this graph of the expansion of technologies. It clearly shows the exponential expansion of technology in the past 100 to 150 years. Just think of the cell phone you had in the 90s compared to today. Or the progress of printing technology. Remember maps? No longer needed. And computers? Don't even get me started. Now if you will permit me, I'd like to intersperse a personal story meant both to be instructional, but also to make me more likable as a person and to help you bond with me the same way you might if I was standing in front of you lecturing while you pretended to listen, and hope I didn't have anything contagious as I tend to spit when I pronounce P. The year was 1981, and I had just arrived at Texas Tech as a freshman, where I was going to be pre-med. I had signed up as a math major, however, as I transferred in a lot of math hours from advanced high school courses. Early in my studies, somebody pointed out that I really should look into this new area of study called computer science. Being easily influenced, I took a walk across campus one day to see the computer science building. Being February or March in West Texas, the wind was howling, the air was filled with Oklahoma and Kansas dirt. As I made my way up the stairs of the building, a young guy came out with a long narrow box in his arms. As the door closed behind him, the wind gusted just right and he lost his hold on the box. It fell quickly to the ground and exploded open, sending hundreds of punch cards flying away into the wind, never to be seen again. He was screaming and running around trying to catch the cards to no avail. Finally, he just sat down on the top step, put his face in his hands, and started sobbing. I asked him what was the matter, and he replied, "Those cards were my senior project. I'm going to fail." I asked, "What do you mean?" "They were just cards. Can't you print them again?" He explained that each one of those was a line of code for a very large program, and in order to repunch them he'd have to do all sorts of stuff that went right over my head. Eventually he got up and left, and I had an aha moment. It became very evident to my little 17-year-old brain right then that computer science seemed like kind of a depressing major, prone to all sorts of unforeseen disasters. I said to myself, let's stick to math, and I went back to the library to study ideas that were centuries, if not millennia old, rather than cutting-edge material that could have made me unimaginably rich and famous. This was one of many decisions I made in the past that I have always regretted. A similar fork-in-the-road of life situation occurred 10 years later, after I finished physician's assistant school. Yes, my program in Galveston gave a degree with an apostrophe and was working on the EMS training faculty in Dallas. One day they announced this innovative new program for a master's degree in educational technology. It was 1990, so you have to realize we were using first-generation IBM desktop computers that didn't even have mice yet. I was really pumped to take this degree in the evenings after work. I went to my boss and excitedly told her about the program.
"Well, Bob, you obviously can do what you want, but I've been in higher education for 10 years, and I truly think this whole new idea of using computers to help teaching is just going to be a passing fad."
Needless to say, I didn't do the degree and have always regretted it. You are probably asking yourselves,
why is he wasting our time telling us these charming anecdotes?
I know. They're his life, and his screw-ups. What does that have to do with us?
Great question. Let me relay one of the main pearls of wisdom found in Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers. He points out that one of the biggest factors in the success of Bill Gates and Steve Jobs was that they were born in just the right year, so they were starting college just as computers were poised to expand from giant mainframes to home desktops. They got to college just as groups were forming to learn the ins and outs of making these machines do our work. The computer science faculty had little more knowledge of the portable computer scene than they did, and many of them saw anything less than a room full of whirring tape drives and vacuum tubes as just a
This is the
passing
master
fad.
console. It's action central as far as the computer operators are concerned. Different devices can all be controlled from the console. These are the tape drives. Every science fiction movie has a few tape drives and a wall of flashing lights to represent a computer. That means you could put 6,250 characters on a single inch of tape. A tape this size is approximately 2,400 feet long and will hold over 170 million bytes of data. If you were to transfer this information to computer cards, you'd end up with a stack of boxes over 300 feet high. This is called a disk pack, and it's used to store data. There are many people who utilize Clemson's computer who are not physically located at the computer center. The computer communicates with these users by the use of teleprocessing. The devices you now see are called modems. This is a card reader card punch. It can read cards at the rate of 1,000 cards per minute and punch cards at the rate of 300 cards per minute. Now let's get to the bottom line. If you'd like one of these computer centers for your very own, we can arrange that. Just fork over $7.5 million. No checks, please.
Gates recognized the need for a simpler way for humans to communicate with these new computers, and created MS-DOS, which when added to all those new IBM computers coming off the line, gave consumers a much easier way to program than machine language had been. The rest is history. My point. You can slide through this class and still probably get an A. But you may want to reconsider this moment in time, in view of your current and future plans, and consider taking just that little extra time right now, this term, to really get a grasp on the current concept of educational technology. With the exponential rise in technologies over time, by the time you finish this course, there will already be something else on the innovation horizon. Will you embrace it, learn all you can about it, incorporate it into your lesson planning, or will you declare, it's just a passing fad?